What's going on, everybody? Take a walk with me. Let's talk about some current events. For one, I'm really happy that the shooter missed. I don't think there's any place for violence, especially in the political arena. We don't know the full story, but we understand that this battle is not against flesh and blood. It's a battle of ideology. It's a battle of wrong thinking. It's a battle of people who don't know who they are, trying to lead other people. That's all it is, when you boil it all down to that. I'm not denying that some of these people have an intelligence in regards to certain subjects that's well beyond my intelligence of those subjects. But I also understand that we're all individuated aspects of the one, and within us all, infinite intelligence exists. That's why we all can look at this shit that's going on and say, this ain't right. Nah, this ain't right at all. So, I guess the question that we as spiritual-minded people have to ask ourselves is, how do we walk in a state of prosperity in a world that is so clearly resonating in a state of lack, especially in a country like America? Because if we can get this country straight, we can actually be what we were trying to be in the world. Except this time we can do it right for the good of all people. How do we occupy a state of prosperity when all around us, all we see is lack? All we see is people wanting for things. People hurting others for the things that they believe will make them happy. We see systems put in place that, just walking down this block in my city, put people on the streets. We see at the top levels of every corporation, every entity that calls itself a governing body, we see corruption, we see greed, we see policies that put entities above people. We see lobbyists that will pay money to support the interest of these entities at the expense of the souls that make up the spine of their organization. We see how an entire party can choose to remove their candidate against the wishes of the people and install their own puppet against the wishes of the people. We see how these things happen right in front of our face. And if an individual decided they wanted to do something, what could an individual do? What can an individual do against an entity like that? And if you join the entity, we all know fighting from the inside does not allow you to change anything. These entities will force you to conform or spit you out. So how do we occupy a state of prosperity in the face of so much apparent lack? in the face of so much apparent turmoil and apparent corruption. Well, here's how I see it. We talk about things like the law of one, about us all actually being one. Now, imagine or think back to the dark night of your soul. And if you're still going through it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Remember your first awakening, your first introduction to all of this. How rough it was. How even when you started to come out of that initial dark night, you were completely unprepared for all of the shadow work that came afterwards. And then you put off the shadow work because it seems like it takes too much energy, and you realize that you can't move forward until you integrate your shadow. And the more you ignore it, the larger the shadow you cast. Now, as we've shifted to this fourth density space, the veil between us is thinning, and we can see more than ever how we are one. Your individual story is just one aspect of humanity's story. And humanity's got a very long shadow, and we have not even started. Let's just consider this the midst of the dark night. We haven't even exited the dark night of our soul yet, because we all haven't woken up. So you may be awake and you're seeing this shadow of humanity. And having done work on your own shadow, you want to see humanity integrate. You want to see us integrate, and move forward. But you got to realize, like you, there's a process that we're going through. And this process is perfect. This process is according to divine order. And the best thing that you can do is play your part within this. Find your role. Find that thing that feels like, that makes your heart sing, that feels like it's just you, even if it's completely different from what you're doing right now. And I love to say not to view the things around you as they are, but to do that, I would have to tell you that I didn't just walk by people who were obviously sleeping on the side of the road on a busy highway, where I'm sure people are driving by in cars and maybe they don't even see them anymore. I'm not telling you to ignore the things that you see. No. You can revise it in your head, yes. You can out-picture it differently in your head, yes. But make the note. Make the note. Because what you see about humanity's shadow is potentially an area that you can help us integrate. Understand this. Even if you're looking around and you don't see something that you can do for the community, the best way that you can help us all is to continue to work on you. Continue to integrate your own shadow. And understand that you just being the best version of yourself, whatever that is, maybe you're just a secretary somewhere. Maybe you work as a clerk. Maybe you work behind a cash register. Maybe you work in some type of mill. Maybe you work doing all types of things, working on cars, working in a warehouse, working with children. Whatever it is that you do, whatever gift it is that you give to society, if that's your soul's calling, That's where you can express your light the brightest. That's where you can perform the work. Not everyone is called to leave their profession. And not everyone is called to stay in their profession. But that's between you and Source. You need to be open, an open channel to receive that message from Source. You have to be an open channel to receive messages from Source. I see so many people on here who do what I do in different parts of the world. Some of them in the desert like me, but others who go out into the forest, go out into the valleys, go up on the rooftops in the concrete jungles. People who go to the beaches, stand in front of the oceans, and then here in the desert, me on the top of a mountain. Things are changing. Things are changing. The things that I talk about here, if this were third density 40 years ago, I'd be in some brick and mortar building preaching the gospel. But look how far we are beyond that. Look how far we are beyond that collectively. Look at, I'm not saying that those places are bad if you consider yourself a regular church going person, if you get community out of that, and if you get some sort of compass or navigation from that, you know, if it helps you be a good person, then you keep it up. If it helps you vibrate at the frequency that you need to bring about your creation, then you stay with it. But I'm not a regular churchgoer. I am not particularly religious, though I was raised in a church, though I visited multiple denominations, and though I've debated the merits of what I believe with strong proponents of other ideologies. I'm sure you, like me, come to the conclusion that they are just that, different ideologies that offer different avenues or different aspects of truth. And wherever you're resonating, you're going to get something from one of the ideologies, if not multiple of them. Only issue with these ideologies is that it appears that the majority of our conflict has stemmed from the fact of a lack of understanding about the nature of this universe. Well, you think about the double slit experiment, and that the act of observing changes the phenomena with which you are observing. Meaning particles can exist in a wave form, but then they become a particle when we observe. It makes it clear that no matter what ideology you believe, no matter what, throw in religious, throw in political, philosophical, throw in whatever, fill in the freaking blank in some way, shape, or form. You could be Satanist, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Satanists. I've dabbled into some of their doctrine, and it's interesting. You be Luciferian. You can be whatever it is that you want to be. The act, your belief will outpicture itself, and you will see this reality from a slide that reinforces that ideology for you. This is happening for every religion. And think about how many people are radiating at the Muslim frequency, or radiating at the Jewish frequency, at the Christian frequency, and all of the many denominations. Think about it. You don't think that that much collective thought power has any type of actual effect on our reality? You don't think that? Now imagine if, instead of being divided in ideology and being pushed to the point of wanting to kill someone else for not believing exactly what you believe, even though all of these are just different ways to look at the universe. Imagine if all that thought power was being pulled towards a common cause, like, say, let's get everyone on an even playing field. Let's go ahead and make sure that the bare minimums of being a human are taken care of, so we can get more thoughts thinking about how it is that we find ourselves here. And perhaps in the jungle somewhere, starving right now, is the next intellect that can help us understand and unite us in a way that we just didn't know was possible. Perhaps. It wouldn't surprise me. Would it surprise you? Perhaps on the street somewhere in the city, there's a person who loves a city so much, placing them in a mayoral seat would lead to a change in vibration that would radiate throughout a city, elevating the status of all people, potentially eradicating that condition that that person came from. But we don't know, because we just drive past these people. We try to ignore them and turn our faces from them. I'm not judging, because I've been guilty of it. But just because I've been guilty of it doesn't mean that you can't at least acknowledge it and try to do better, you know? Just a little bit, day by day, 1%. It adds up, right? I'm not saying that it's easy to walk around believing and telling yourself that you are this thing. You can't just ignore the people. What you can do is think from that end perspective. Think from that end. When you see someone who's vibrating so low that they don't even see any hope, you can imagine for them. You can share words of wisdom with them. You can show random acts of kindness. Imagine if we all made it part of our creed to perform at least one random act of kindness, extreme generosity, a day. If people literally got out of bed and ran out into the street because they forgot to perform their random act of kindness today. What type of world is that? Where that's the frequency people are radiating at. What type of world is that? I don't know what type of person we need to actually embody truths that unite people, but I see it. I see us operating from a state that assumes that that has happened. And I'll leave all the rest to outer intention, source, the all, God, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And if you'll join me in resonating at this frequency, all we got to do is touch and agree, and it is, right? Let's hold on to this vision and watch the world change. I love you. I want to see the fullest expression of you. This is the Spark.